Why do you say that, Father? You aren't afraid, are you?
No, but I respect some of the superstitions of others. Often they are founded in fact.
Broadcasting live from our Sanctum Sanctorum in Venice, California. This is the Sixth Sense Society. I'm your host, Krista, here with our producer, Michael. And today we are welcoming back to the show Jacki Smith, who has been on several times, most recently on our 2-hour Magick special. And she is the founder of Coventry Creations and is the best-selling author of Coventry Magick. So today we are going to talk about the magic of October, which is sort of a big umbrella idea, because I didn't want to just necessarily focus only on Halloween or Samhain. So I thought it'd be kind of cool, since many people see the whole month of October as being magical. But before we get started, Michael has a few announcements.
Hi, everybody, and welcome again to our show. We're getting close to the end of the year. We have one more month in front of us. But then this month, next week, we have our good friend Reverend Jim McGrath back, and he's going to be talking about exorcism, and not just in Catholicism. We sort of think of that with the Exorcist movies and whatnot, but there are a lot of different religions and beliefs where exorcism plays a big part of it. So trying to keep with the Halloween theme, and we will be doing exorcism next week. And then we have all kinds of cool stuff coming up in November. Get all the information on our website, sixthsensesociety.com, SIXTH, all spelled out. And while you're there, you can buy us a coffee on Ko-Fi if you can so afford it, or subscribe to our newsletter. And we love all you guys who have helped us out a little bit with our production cost. But if you can't afford it, we love having you as well. And then hit subscribe and like. That helps us tremendously with YouTube, and it makes them notice our show a little bit more and promote us a little bit more. So if you guys could do that, we definitely appreciate that too. It's not going to take up any more of your time. I'm going to kick it back to Krista. So take it away, Krista.
Great. Thanks so much, Michael. Welcome, Jacki.
Thank you. It's so great to be back. I love doing this show with you. We go off in these tangents and just have fun.
We do. It's always delightful to have you on. And I love your take on magic. It's so, I can tell you're not only experienced, but you really do think for yourself. And I always appreciate people that do that. It just makes life more rich, I think, not just sort of, uttering the dogma of whatever we're involved in. So.
Yeah. And thank you for that. I do like to think, just process things through in a different way.
You do. So what do you think of this idea? I was thinking, that really, people, even in September, people are talking about October, and they're posting, pictures on Instagram and getting all excited. And when we used to be in the heyday of our decorations, we would start looking for decorations in August and September for our porch. And we always so enjoyed that. So why do you think, from your point of view, the whole month of October is now sort of magical for many people?
I just think that this is, it's not a religious holiday. It's just about fun. Now in the modern Halloween, it's about fun. I get to dress up. I get to be silly. I get to do different things. It definitely has its roots in that taking what's scary in life and kind of immersing yourself in it. And so it's not so scary. It's one of the big things that Halloween always was. So we scare ourselves so that the things in life don't feel as scary, unless you're like me and you have a really vivid imagination and you just can't handle scary movies at all. I can't do it. But energetically, I always think about, I find it really fascinating between the fall seasons, the Libra going into Scorpio, going into Sagittarius, going into Capricorn, and all of those, all the holidays that come together, and how they just really nail the signs. If you think about it, like this Libra in moving from September into October for Libra, and that getting that really clear what is important, what isn't important, because you're packing stuff up and you don't have the leisurely time of the summer, and you're mentally getting ready for, oh, I have to be inside now. And so there's a lot of judgment and there's cutting cords and dealing with what relationship you're in, and then moving into that Scorpio of what's hidden and what's under the surface, and how we just like kind of like naturally start doing that. We naturally start, as soon as that it's like 21st of October hits, we're like pulling out the Ouija boards and the tarot cards. I can't tell you how many people are hitting me up like every day. You still do readings? You still do readings? You still do readings? And I just like, well, no, not right now. But just like, they want to know what's they're sensing there's something deeper going on. And so they want to tap into that. And that with all that Scorpio energy, also like with the dead and death and sex and all that stuff, that Scorpio, we just start naturally sensing spirits more and more. So it's just like, and then going into like the Thanksgiving, and then going into Christmas with all the dreaminess of Sag, and then you get through Christmas and the reality of Capricorn hits you.
The bill for the presents.
Yeah. So, but that sadness, like that after Christmas, like wah, 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 life is really hard because you just fell right off that Sag cliff. But it's really kind of fun to watch how all of that this time of year, more so than any other time of year, it just really matches how like Scorpio season and Sag season and how those signs roll.
It's true that readings are always more prevalent in starting now through Sagittarius. People always want to come for readings. It's almost always predictably a busy period of time. Interesting enough, but a long time ago before the recession, parties were huge in December. We made 25% of our income in 1 month until the recession hit. And then since that time, it's never quite gone back to what it was, but you literally could just work parties for a month. So that was part of that Sagittarius energy too there. And you're right, there is especially with the Scorpio, people really want to dig in and ask the questions. And but the one thing I found when I first embraced that, that October 31st, November 1st, this is my new year, and is that idea that as the light gets darker, the idea of slowing down, I found that if I can do that, I did feel more connected to the cycles, which is a little hard to do with some of the holidays.
Well, yeah, I'm with you 100% on that, because I do want to slow down, and yet it's so busy for me. And even before the world of psychic and the world of magic, this has always been a really busy time for me, and I want to slow down. I start getting annoyed at like, oh my God, I just want to go home. But I also think that that's part of that energetic process of we want to go, even without the signs, is that the light's going away sooner. It's colder, or wherever you are, depending on how much colder it gets. But you want to just kind of hunker down a little bit with you and your thoughts and your family, and process everything that's been happening. That's what I know I need to do that. And I watch a lot of people go, I just don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do it. So that slowing down process, I agree with you 100%.
Well, I think you have a family, so it is, I think, a little more challenging with people that have a family because of, the expectations put on you for families. And also, you have a family.
and so this is back to school season. So back to school season, when my daughter was in school, was just crazy busy with everything, because there's all the school stuff and then all the work stuff at the same time. So since I've had Coventry, my busy season starts mid-August, and it does not slow down. I get like a week off in December when it's slow, but it doesn't slow back down until March. Just that's my season. And so decorating, I was thinking about this the other day, like I'm able to hire a few more people to do a few more things. And I was sitting on my couch looking out my window going, I might have energy to decorate next year. We'll see. But I was like, decorating. No, I'm decorating at work, at the store, creating products. I'm like, I'm so decorated out.
I bet. Now,
And I love all this stuff. So I decided I was going to live it all year long.
Well, there you go. Well, do you have any traditions that you do just within your family that you have created over the years, or do you just kind of feel it out and see what you want to do for yourself?
We kind of feel it out and see what we want to do. Specifically for Halloween, we had some traditions when my daughter was younger and it was time for trick or treating, and that was just a fun thing I wanted to do with her. And then she got older and the trick or treating didn't happen. Then she got into marching band, and then there's always a competition right around that. Whenever the Halloween was, there's always a competition. So it fell away. But what I like to do is really, it's a very personal journey. And I talked to my daughter about this, and my husband, who is really doesn't do anything except in the moment. But I just, I have my own stuff of like wanting to go deeper and spending time with myself, spending more time with spirits and meditation. And when I was doing readings professionally, of course, I have to spend a lot of time clearing and being centered and meditating because of how many readings I was doing. Mm-hmm. But I'm not doing that professionally right now. So I have to remember to clear and center. It's not part of my everyday. So I'm having to remember to do that.
I never thought about that, since it was part of the reading that you didn't have to remember to practice it, But you're right about this is a good time for healing and going deeper within. I like the way the Irish view the quarters, the cross quarters, and that this is the dark half of the year. And that I started to realize, so when I was younger, because I had so much death, I found I was always thinking about death year round. So then I started saying, well, maybe I'll do it during the period that death is more natural, in the sense of, and that I can start to have a more harmonious life. And I'll use the summertime to be more celebratory and more out and extroverted. And that really helped me not be overwhelmed. And I don't stick to it rigidly, but I still remember, like, okay, this is a descent, like you were saying, this is a good time for certain things, and healing, going within, dream work, all of that, meditation.
Mm-hmm. And also celebrating life. Mm-hmm. We've turned it into a bit of a party in our modern Halloween ritual, as it were. Halloween parties are all over the place. I love how different people, like some people I wouldn't think would be into Halloween, it's like, it's my favorite time. And they go all out with parties and decoration. And I'm like, so why? What's that about? Why not Christmas? Why not? I'm like, no, because this is me. I get to do what I want. I don't have to, and I'm like, I love it. I love that they can take it in all these different directions. And and also most of those are guys. I noticed that the guys are totally into doing the Halloween decoration, and they get to that energy out. I don't know what it is, but it's just fun to watch. And so I'm watching them like celebrate who they are, and they also celebrating life and party and stuff. I mean, we do. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what like the celebration of the dead is all about.
It's true. It's a great mix of, I was reading someone call it profane and sacred, and it's got that carnival aspect. And especially in LA, you can partake of all of it on one weekend. You can go to West Hollywood, you can go to the Dias de los Muertos, you can do it all within like 3 or 4 days and experience the dimensions that you're talking about. And that's one of my probably favorite things about Los Angeles, because it is celebrated on a huge scale here, I would say.
That's awesome. And that I love that. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
It is. And I think I can say Michael and we started maybe a little bit more with sort of the idea of doing something that's connected more to witchcraft. And I think my first Halloween with Michael was, we went to Salem. And it happened to be a really good year. They had carved every rune on pumpkins, and they did this ritual, and just the runes alone were so beautiful. And they performed sort of ritual for everybody, and then we all had candles and marched to Gallows Hills, and then there was the reenactment of the witch trials, and It was really a really fun but also sober experience. It was a mix of both, and I think it depends on when you go to Salem. We just happened to go a year that I thought the celebration was just really remarkable. Actually, ever put it on? I think it was, I forget who it was, but that was my introduction. But since we've been in LA, we kind of do a mix of more Halloween and then and our own thing, and I like that you can do that. Actually, there's no, I mean, nobody minds in a sense. No one gives you a hard time.
Right. And I'm not Wiccan. I started out as a Wiccan, and then I realized I'm really eclectic, and I'm not a farmer. So the wheel of the year is not important to me in that same way. But one thing that I find is very true is magic works faster this time of year, through the end of the year, even into Christmas, called the Christmas miracle. It's the Halloween miracle. But it does. I mean, if I start working on some intent work, or whether I'm deciding to do a bigger ritual or just lighting a candle, and there's no just about lighting a candle, and setting my intent that way, I'm finding things are working really fast. Just, so I'm talking to someone about, I really want to figure out this international shipping. We have some international customers who want to open up more. I'm getting more inquiries internationally. And then next thing I know, I'm just saying this, and we're like, yeah, that's a great idea. Next thing you know, I'm getting emails, I'm getting calls, I'm going, hey, don't you ship internationally? There's a group of us that want to get together and start talking. I'm like, what? So it just becomes this, things work really fast magically. Also, I'm also finding out on the flip side of it, all of a sudden, some of my international shipping channels don't work anymore. So it's like, oh, you want to do things, you want to do it right, we're going to force you. So just watch what you ask for. It will start to show up.
I was going to ask you what you thought was good magically to do. So probably anything would be good in that sense. Anything that's important.
Yeah, but you got to remember what's naturally going to happen. So, that little story I said of like international and how these people are contacting me, but also on the flip side, this is a waning year. So it's going to, and you're going to find what's blocking you, and that stuff is going to come up, and it's going to feel like a train wreck instead of part of your magic. So the things that are deep, the things that are, so here's a Libra side, here's the relationships I have to build. And then here's moving into the Scorpio side of, here's everything that's been blocking you. And here's everything that's hidden deep. And that's going to be a blocker in the future. So these things are coming up like, oh, I don't want that yet. But that's part of magic. So when you're changing the energy around you, you're going to find all the places where, and I call them, so healing is internal, clearing is external. So all those things you got to clear that are in your path or open the road for, because they're not ready for you to be a different person energetically. I see it happen to myself and to other people all the time. I'm going to be a more positive person. I'm going to, you start walking that path of gratitude, as it were. Mm-hmm. And then all the different people and things in your life that you're not so grateful for are going to show up, because you're going to challenge yourself on whether it's the universe challenging your commitment or you're challenging yourself on whether you really want to do this. It's there, boom.
That is so true. Sometimes in the past, Michael and I have done sort of a ritual on Halloween where part of the ritual is making a wish. And one year, I'm not known for my patience. And I mean, I'm patient with animals and old people, but most people can do that, right? Well, maybe not everybody, but I asked to be more patient. And Michael was just horrified that I asked for that. I think he knew, because he's patient. He knew what I was up against. And I had this client that was literally pushing my edges the whole year. And at the end of it, I just laughed and I said, oh my God, I got what I wanted. I had to learn to be. And she was a really good soul. I mean, it was but a very, really traumatized person, right? And very pushy and very, kind of persistent after you kind of. And so I'm a little more thoughtful about what I'm ready to do when I do something magical like that now. I don't want to avoid things, but I don't want to just kind of jump in without thinking.
Yes. A friend of mine just said something to me that I'm starting to write a little bit about. And it's something that I take for granted because I've built my relationships with my spiritual court. And she says, remember, who are you working that magic with? Who's behind you in the spirit realm? Who are you calling on? Who's helping you make this happen? And if you're not specific and precise, you might not like who's working with you. Could you kind of open the door? And I was like, wow. So I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And this time of year, since spirits are so prevalent, they just are. It's like, I don't know if you've ever gone to New Orleans, you go to New Orleans and spirits are everywhere. It's like it's New Orleans everywhere, every day. And there, I can see them. I'm seeing them more often. I think I see something behind me. I'm like, oh, no, that's not something. Oh, wait, maybe it is something. So they're everywhere. And this time of year, think about who is in your spiritual court, who is your gatekeeper, who are your guardians, and who's working your magic with you, who's helping you out. Because if you leave it a little open-ended, then you can really create some chaos for yourself.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. I never thought of it quite like that. Now, do you work, I know some people work with their ancestors, their literal ancestors. Do you have anyone from your lineage that you like to at least have a relationship with of some kind?
There are a couple of people in my ancestors, and some of them I have known in my life. My grandmother, they called her Teeny. I'm named after her. Her name is Martina. Oh. So she shows up every now and again. And so when I find angel food cake in the store, because, angel food cake is not a trend, so it's hard to find. But when I find angel food cake in the grocery store, I know it's time to start talking to Grandma Tina, because she's got something to do. Now, recently, working with a reader, shaman, and she was talking about, there's an ancestor that really, and you don't know him, he's very far back, that really wants to work with you. And she was describing him. So I decided to get on ancestry.com and start through my dad's side and start looking them up. And I found him, and it was so, I didn't know. My dad is Scottish and German, and she's like, it's a Scottish, and this woman didn't know, this is a Scottish ancestor. And so I started looking him up, and I found, Angus of the Black Beasts and I'm like, that's him. It's gotta be, because that's awesome. But I just started looking through Ancestry, and he just came out, and I was sitting there like, is this him? Because, Angus is such a Scottish name, and there are a lot of them in my lineage. I'm Scottish, so of course there are. And I sat down and I said, is this really you? And I had this conversation. If this is really you, and this is really who I need to work with, can you show me a sign? And then I come out into the living room, and there's this special on where the Black Angus meat comes from and what it's named after on the TV. I'm like, okay, all right, there's my sign. I'm just going to take it. And so I've been working with him a little bit. He shows up. But the way I work with my ancestors is more as gatekeepers. They are the ones who are going to make sure that the spirits working with me are for benefit. And sometimes that benefit is a lesson, but they're here for my highest good.
I like that. I never really thought about working with ancestors quite like that. For me, mostly it's been, I kind of watch for just signs like you do. And so to see, that's, my mother wanting to connect with me, or if I have a dream of someone I haven't had for a long time, I'll feel like that person's around. And I think I could probably go a little bit further with it.
I've been having chaotic dreams where I'm fighting people. You wake up and you're like, I'm just frustrated. I'm like, that means I need to feed my guardians and feed my ancestors a little more. When I say feed them, bring them offerings. Bring them the things that they love. Coffee is always a great offering. Tobacco is always a great offering. And then different things, like if my dad who's passed loves chocolate. So I bring him chocolate. My mom loved caramels, so I bring her caramels. My grandma Tina loved angel food cake. And so, or maybe they like the Big Mac special or something like that. Just bring them energy so they can take that energy and use it in your life. So if you think about it, my philosophy is this: they're in the spirit realm, we're in the physical realm. So if they want to influence my life, they need physical energy and not just spiritual energy. So if I bring them something tangible and physical, then they can take that energy and use it to affect change in my life. If I don't give them the resources, it's hard to make a dress if you don't have cloth.
Absolutely. So, I mean, here's a practical question. So do you take the offerings to your altar? Do you leave it there? Do you pour some out? And then also, how long would you normally keep it on your altar if you do put it there?
Right. For food, I have an ancestor altar, and there's many traditions. I don't come from a lineage of ancestor altars except going to church or having pictures on the wall. And so I've cobbled together from the influences and the things that I've learned from different cosmologies. Some are Asian, some are African, some are European. And so I created my own cosmology, and my ancestors are liking it. So I have a shelf in my office, and I have candles and offerings and stuff there. And sometimes I'll bring a plate of food to them. I leave it maybe a half hour. I don't want it to rot or spoil because I don't want them to use rotten or spoiled energy.
That makes sense.
And then also, I don't want the cats at it. But yet, if you think about it, the ancestors will use different animals. So let's say you're going to make an offering at a tree. That's one of the traditional places, is that the roots, your ancestors are in the roots of the tree. They go deep into the earth. So let's say you're going to leave an offering at a tree. I make sure it's something that wild animals can eat. So I'm not going to bring the chocolate out to the tree because it could make wild animals sick.
Right.
So I'm going to bring something that, they like the angel food cake. So I'll bring that out, and then the animals will eat it. And so it's a way of the ancestors consuming that.
I like that. I never quite thought of the roots being like the roots of your ancestor. I knew that the tree offering is also really prevalent in Tibetan Buddhism, and they do like fancy tormas and food, and then they leave them at trees. And I've never asked about the more particulars because Buddhism definitely has a lot of detail in its symbolism, but I always noticed it. That was one of the things they would do, and they're very big at on these beautiful tormas as food offerings and libations. It's all part of their practice. Many forms of Buddhism.
I just have this visual of. Actually, I have a tattoo. I have a big tree tattoo down my side, and the roots of the tattoo. In the roots are skulls of my ancestors. So this tree that's down my side is my lineage and my ancestry. And I just did it as a nod to the family. Now my family is not lovers of tattoos, so so it's my nod, not theirs.
Now, going back to something you said earlier, I never thought about this time of year might be just fun to do genealogy, that maybe you would sort of tap into just intuitively, different things about relatives that might be important or that you resonate with. And that might be just a fun project, because you can think outside the box. That's what I love also about all of this.
Yeah, I found I'm really enjoying not just seeing, okay, this person, this person, this person. I love that there's different articles that they're from newspapers. I found this article of my grandfather's first wife had passed, and there's a picture in the paper of him, his wife's sister, and his brother, or his wife's cousin and his brother in the picture. And then I saw over here that cousin and that brother got married and moved off to Seattle. So it's just like, wow, look at these stories coming together. And the importance of that is to understand how you're put together, what complexes, what legacies that you put together with. And so I learned all that, and I think it was early 2019. And then 2020, the pandemic hit. And then I remembered that article. So both of my grandfather's first wives died of the Spanish flu.
Wow.
And so it's like, whoa, there's like this, and I just kind of got the shivers. I'm like, okay, so what does this mean? So I sat down with my ancestors, and literally with a picture of my family tree on both sides. And so my grandfathers and their first wives showed up for me in this meditation, as well as my grandmothers, to help me and protect me. And I asked that there is blessing to the whole family. And this was happening. I started meditating on this. I didn't know I had COVID. And so I was getting sicker and sicker. So I kept asking them to come closer and closer and help me. And obviously I survived, but it was really important to me. And then once I was recovering from COVID, and then recovering my businesses and getting, bringing my staff back and keeping everybody healthy, I continue to keep them fed. I continue to keep offerings to them, flowers, water, all of that is easy to do. It doesn't have to be food. And kept doing fresh flowers as much as possible. Would bake little things for that 1 week I was home. 1 week, I got a week, and then I was back to work. But that was really a big thing. I worked very hard with them to keep my family safe from getting sick, and to keep everybody safe.
Wow, that's a powerful story. I love that sort of way to interact with your ancestors in a really present situation. Not just simply, which is fine, simply remembering them and honoring them, but actually they're in a moment of crisis, helping them, using them to help you, and helping them, and continuing to be grateful. I think that's a great story.
That our ancestors we are the culmination of all of their hard work. So they want to see us succeed. They're like, don't waste what I spent on you. And so if you reach back out and say, okay, here I am. And I like to reach back further than my parents, or even the grandparents that I knew. And we all have different philosophies on at what point does that spirit let go of that earthly body and the earthly concerns. There's different variations on that philosophy. But if I have a relationship with someone, there's going to be a natural reaction to pull up the basis of that relationship within me. So I'm going to pull up their earthly memory. So if I'm going to, let's say my father comes to talk to me, or my mother comes to talk to me, I have a story about that too. And I'm going to have my own reaction that's based on my own experience. So I had a medium who worked for me, and she kept going, your mother wants to talk to you. Your mother wants to talk to you. And my mother had passed about a year earlier. And we did not have a great relationship at all. It was toxic. So I said, I'm really not interested in messages from my mother at this time. It's too soon. And she wouldn't let it go. She goes, please, she won't stop bugging me. Your mother wants to talk to you. And I said, okay, let's sit down. And your mother's celebrating you with balloons and this and that. And I said to the medium, okay, thank you for that. I'm really not interested. And this is really hurtful for me, because it's pulling up stuff I'm slowly processing. And so as a medium, you need to be in control of how close that spirit gets to you. If your client does not want a message, then you got to tell them to go. And also, that message wasn't about me. My mother's birthday is tomorrow. So those balloons are about her, not me. And so I started thinking about this, so is my mother not free of those earthly concerns? Is she going to be in judgment of me, and in the same way she was in the past? So I've been really pondering on that ever since. And I'm like, I think part of it is that her earthly body and her memories, that part that stays here and it kind of gets absorbed into the soil, is still part of me. So of course that spirit is going to trigger those memories or those reactions, those natural energetic reactions. So I go further back where I don't necessarily have, and my grandmother Tina, she passed when I was 5 or 6 years old. So I only have lovely memories of sitting on this old woman's lap and her rocking me. That's it. That's the max I have. So that's very pleasant. And that's something that I can transcend and then work with that spirit with the messages that they're bringing me.
The mother energy is maybe particularly powerful because she carried the person, the child, for 9 months. I think the physical connection is particularly powerful in terms of memory, and at least that's my experience so far with it. And also when my mother died, oddly enough, I would, of course it's not odd, but we would meet people that would help us, and they all had their mothers had died at some point. And it was just the strangest thing. And they'd all, talk openly about the effect it had on them. And I'll never forget it. It was like these little mini teachings along the way about what it means to lose the archetype of the mother, no matter what your relationship is like with the mother.
Yeah. That is a very interesting experience. And you would think as you age and you get to that place where, it is natural for my mother to die around this time at this age, how it still affects you. It's still, I came out of a like an 8-month grief. I woke up one day going, oh, I've been grieving. I've been wearing basically pajamas all day in my tunics and leggings. I think I might have been grieving. Keeping M&Ms in my pocket. I might have been grieving.
Yeah, grief is funny that way, and it has different expressions. And I don't know that I can say, I used to think I may become an adept on grieving, but I don't think that happens.
And nor do I want it.
Yeah.
But speaking of grieving and the dead, I stumbled upon in my own personal experience, one of the best places to grieve is a graveyard. Because I was doing this grieving and I was walking and I walked into the graveyard, and it's designed energetically in its purpose to pull and absorb that grief.
Interesting. I love that. I know that graveyards for practice in certain Tibetan Buddhist traditions are very important to go and do certain practices at a graveyard. And part of it is to, realize you are a mortal being. But I love that. And maybe that's why it feels peaceful to go to a graveyard. Maybe you can relax and just connect to death without feeling funny about it or making someone feel awkward because you're still grieving.
We grieve a lot of things. So being an adept at grieving is interesting. Maybe not grieving people dying, but we grieve lost ideas. And again, bringing it right back to October, this is an amazing time to let go of those lost ideas or lost relationships, or we grieve lots of things. When I had an ex-employee embezzle a lot of money from me, I had to grieve that. I had to grieve the relationship that I had with that person. I had to grieve my own mistakes. I had to grieve the loss of that money, and allowing myself to grieve that idea of that I thought I had it together and was really good with money. I had to grieve that. Then I was able to move on and recover. And because I just said, I have to grieve this. So that those ideals.
Absolutely. And I've heard that in Clarissa Pinkola Estes talks about it. And then there's certain creative things you can do to help with the process. And then also, I think the book is called Unattended Sorrows, which is such a beautiful, I think it's by Stephen Levine. He did a lot of work on grief and dying. And he talked about too, yes, that was the first time when I was really reading the lost dreams that we had and different ideals and how we can't just dismiss it. And it's amazing how it just gets pent up in your body in some way, or that sometimes it turns to anger for some people, or also depression, deep depression. Not all depression is the same, though. I don't want to make it sound like it is. And it is a natural time to do that. You're right. It's a good time. And again, it is balanced by the carnival aspect of October.
Yeah. And so right now, in a real practical sense, this year, 2021, has been grieving and recovering and processing the trauma that we were in 2020.
Yeah.
In 21, okay, we have this idea, okay, here's the vaccination we've all been praying for all year. And like by March of 21, we had one, which is a miracle. And no matter what your political stance is on it, we were all hoping for this. And so then there's the people like, yay, I'm going to do it. And then there's the people like, no way, I'm not going to do it. So it was a loss. So the people who are excited about the immunization, about the shot, saying, oh my God, this crisis is over. And then realizing it's not. And then there's the loss of the people who didn't believe in it. And they had been hoping for something and they had to let go of that. So I've been watching this year a lot of grief happen over that. So, and I think that's part of that polarization that I've been watching. And we didn't get an opportunity to grieve our dead last year.
No.
So all of this is kind of coalescing in this one moment in my brain. You're watching it come together, that this October would be a great time to walk that graveyard and start grieving these things. Let yourself cry in the middle of the graveyard. If you need to be alone, be alone. But just honor the fact that there's so much hope we had for early 21 that blew up, and then we had the Delta variant and we're like, it's not over. It is over. I'm sick of it. Is this the pandemic? Is this not the pandemic? Just all of that hope of coming through it, like, with the clouds parting and the sun shining on us, and we get to go out and party saying it's over, and it's not over. I think that's something worth grieving.
Absolutely. And also I have found myself maybe in the process of beginning to grieve certain ideals I've had about this country, even though I didn't think I had them. And maybe ideals about what it's like to go through a worldwide disaster together, like the lack sometimes of people coming together. But then there's the opposite when you see, incredible heroes and stories of heroic efforts and that. But there is, for me, I'm still trying to come around and accept that there's a sort of a deeper disappointment of some kind. I don't quite know. I can't name it, but it's still affecting me, how I view, and in fact, I haven't even been watching the news much because I want to feel some of this and process it, because it's also, I think we're all overloaded.
Oh, I agree with you. I was just thinking about, I know some nurses and I know some police officers who are just so mad about these mandates, even though they're immunized, and it's like, so I asked them, what is really going on? Like, I didn't say just like, so what are you really mad about? But, like, tell me more about it, and listening to them feeling so disappointed. And so I think we're onto something here, Krista. I think we've got.
Yeah, it's an underlying thing that I haven't, and I've often felt very, very fortunate not to go through any kind of, I've never been through a huge natural disaster. I've never been through war zones and been in a war. This is my first experience of something that has that kind of impact. I mean, economically, of course, we're all seeing that we still have a long ways to go. There's an economic loss that hasn't, really, we're still dealing with it, that's still coming on a sense. And that's long coming. The pandemic was just the catalyst that broke it open. But I think, maybe this is a good time to at least take a little bit of time to think about and spend time with our feelings about these things, and not try to push through them or feel like, one more month and everything's fine, which is kind of how I was surviving last year, if we just get to the vaccine. And
and grief is very magical. It's very psychological, emotional. A lot of therapists talk about grief, but it's very magical. So what I see it does energetically in the magic world is the trauma. So grief is like, I'm just gonna play with the words and how I see it. Grief is like this sticky substance of sticky energy. And what happens is the trauma of what's going on sticks to it. So you can start to release the trauma out. The grief kind of pulls that trauma out so you don't continue to relive it in your cells and in your soul parts. So releasing the grief and releasing it, it goes through all the different layers of your aura. So that's why it's such a process. It's a sticky, thick, sticky substance. And when it finally releases through those layers, you are open to that healing. You're open to that transformation, that change. So I always say that healing is the same thing as magic. So when you're healing something, what you're doing is you're making room for new possibilities. And so the magic of healing, so whatever trauma that stops you from manifesting what you really want to manifest. I mean, we all manifest stuff like crazy, you know, you see it on our social media all the time. Oh, I wonder what that dog food is my dog likes. And then there it is in social media. Is it algorithms or is it manifesting? I don't know. But we manifest stuff all the time. And when we can't, it's because there's an experience, there's a bug in the machine or whatever. And so that grief helps you find the bugs, finds you what the problem is. And it helps you kind of release that. And then now you've opened a road to manifesting something, to becoming a new version of yourself or a new possibility.
I totally agree. And then the other thing, I had this really strange experience with fear recently. I had gone and I worked a party and I was really tired, and I'm always really good at knowing where my purse is. And the next day I thought I had lost my wallet. And I had this huge terror come across me, and I'd forgotten I'd put my wallet in this other little bag within my backpack. And for about 10 minutes, I had so much fear come out, and it actually turned out to be a good thing in a weird way, because I actually felt a lot better. And I thought, oh my God, I must be really pushing down my fear too much. Like, instead of just feeling it completely, like, ah, and my body felt better. And I said, oh man, I've never had that quite happen. This was such a strange level of fear. Like, it wasn't this underlying anxiety that's not a good thing in me. It was something else. I felt so much better. And I was thinking about this idea of Halloween and fear, and how there's certain releases of fear. Like, I know some people say if you shake, that animal shaking, that's how you release fear, that practice of shaking.
Well, and that fear and stress, like you were talking about, we were talking earlier about what stress is, we need to define that better, but fear and stress and how it builds up the cortisol, it builds up these chemicals within you. So the release of that thing, it does really break apart that cortisol and release it. And then you create, it's not dopamine, I forget what it is, but you create that the fear creates that, the release of it creates that, I can't remember the name of it, but it gives you the energy to move forward or like, you know,
yeah.
You just like, it's like you're a wooden match and all of a sudden you go, pff.
Yes, exactly.
And you burn it off.
You do. Now, I wanted to mention, I know that you're going to be teaching as part of this online live Zoom interactive weekend at the Gathering of the Witches. So tell us a little bit about that and what you're going to be teaching then, and also the time. I think it's coming up.
It is coming up. I'm teaching on Sunday, and my class is how to transform crisis into magic, which is interesting because that's what we're talking about. So I'm getting ready for it. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm pulling it all up, and it's taking a new perspective on the energy that's around you and using it magically. I'm really honored to be part of it. There's a lot of big, heavy hitters who have been my teachers. Judica Illis is going to be there. Christopher Penzick. I all of a sudden I went blank on everybody else, but I was just looking up. I'm like, oh, I'm in really powerful company, and I'm very excited about this. And this is my first time teaching Zoom, so I'm all aflutter about getting my slide deck just perfect. I find it really interesting when you can go back and forth. So I'm very excited about doing this and being asked to be a part of it.
Yes, and for people
3 days.
listening, it is October 22nd to the 24th. Is that correct? And it seemed very reasonable, the price when I looked at it. And I like that it's also interactive. It's not just a lecture form, which is, I mean, lecture form can be fun too, but
yeah.
That's neat.
But most of the teachers I know like to do interactive stuff with their students. And that's what I prefer too. And it makes the time go faster. All of a sudden the class is over and you're like, what's happening?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's, they're 2-hour classes, and it's really cool because you don't have to run around and find out where your next class is. You just look on the thing and click a button. I recently taught a live class outside a couple of weeks ago, and it was hard because I've done so much interacting through screens. So I was almost felt like there was a screen in front of me when I'm working on connecting with everyone. I had to reground and put my feet in the dirt and go, no, these are humans in front of me. I'm very excited. I could touch them if I want to. But on the flip side of that, I'm excited to test this format of teaching online. It will be different because I've been taking a lot of classes online, and it is different.
It is. I think the online classes, I mean, they were already developing, and certain people had already had live streams that especially some of the astrologers, they were already doing sort of webinars, and then they would save them and you could buy them for $25 or something. And so, but there is something about the in-person that's nice to connect in some way. We were talking about that with ritual. And I know when I did go back to the bookstore and started doing in-person readings for the first time, and I think it was in June or something. And I remember my first reading actually, because it was so odd because we also use virtual decks on our Zoom and Skype. And so I was using my old deck, and it was nice. It was definitely slower though. Like everything took more time. So that I think it'll be nice to have both worlds integrated, and I think people will figure that out, and especially people that want to do some things in person. But obviously, the Zoom teachings allow more people to connect from all over the world.
Yeah, it brings a different variety of folks, and I'm very excited to see who shows up for it.
Yeah, and you're totally one of those people that deserves to be on there. I mean, I just think it's so funny that I've met you, and I always use the candles of your candles for years, and I loved them. I still love them, and it's just really cool. You don't always get to meet the people that you use their supplies, or sometimes you'll meet the authors, but sometimes you don't. But it's just a funny road that here you are.
And hopefully you still like me, because sometimes you meet the author and you go, oh. So hopefully you still like me.
I like you even more. I just like your approach to magic, and like I think I said in another show, there's takes that you have on things. Like I remember with the protection and what part of you needs healing, and it's just, I like that you have your own view and that you share it, and you've definitely been doing this long enough. And I'm a big believer that wisdom doesn't come with time for everybody, but you can't get wisdom overnight. You can get knowledge, but you can't fast track wisdom. That's just not the way it goes.
No, again, today I was talking about that. Somebody was asking me when does all this, the drama and the stress stop? And I'm like, I don't know, in your 50s.
No,
because you've been there. You've been there. But can I do a shameless plug?
Yeah, absolutely.
So November 1st, and I wish I had one in front of me if I pre-thought this. I'm bringing out Coventry and Storm Sestavani. We're bringing out a new line of products called Astro Magic. We're reimagining our Astro Magic, and they're boxed candles, and they'll come with a 12-page booklet on how to personalize the magic for yourself. And I am super excited about it's going to be a whole unboxing experience. It's beautiful. So stay tuned. We're going to do a countdown to November 1st on that.
What a great day to do it.
The planets. We're doing the planets. We're not doing the astrological signs. The whole thing is about how to use the energy of Jupiter, how to bring that energy in and use that magically in your life, or Saturn, or the sun, or how to use that magically.
Now, are you going to include any asteroids?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I've got the 7 planets plus full moon, new moon, and Mercury retrograde. I got 10.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot.
That is a lot. That's a great idea. I love that, and especially, whether you want to use something to enhance it with the planet, or if you have I know that I used to take a tincture for, I forget what, there's a lot of people that do them now that were connected to planets. So if you're having a difficult transit with Pluto, there was a tincture that would help work with the energies. It's not going to solve your problems, but I always liked that idea of like, yeah, I need an ally. It's sometimes hard to do it yourself.
Well, the sun is called curse breaker. So that's for when things are, the sun overrules everything. So even in the middle of Mercury retrograde, you can bring that sun energy in. The moon is do you. And so that's self-care.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So
I love that.
It's learning about what you need to take care of yourself. And so in the booklet, it says, oh, you're a Virgo and you're using a moon candle. How do you personalize this and make this work for you? Mercury is truth serum.
Well, that's interesting. I like to
Mars,
see what happens with that.
Right. So it's like Mercury is like, well, what's really going on? What am I not paying attention to? What communication is flawed here? Mars is IDGAF. So it's like, nope, it's gonna go my way. Right. So when you need that boost of it's like, I'm not worried about what you need. It's gonna go my way. Venus is that bitch, because Venus has got everything. She is that one. And so when you need to put on your crown, there you are. Jupiter is lucky star. So all that good Jupiter luck. So if you need to bring that in your life, and there's an invocation for the planet, of course, for each one. Saturn is get the F out. because Saturn just breaks some stuff up when you need to. So and then we have the full moon, which is let it go, and new moon, which is let it grow. Which is, and we are full moon today. So, and we're talking about grief and letting stuff go. This is a great time to do that, especially your disappointments in life. So all of the different candles are how to, when you need that energy, and how to call on that planet, and how to personalize it for yourself, and how to look at one of my philosophies is that any energy in front of you, you can use in one of 5 different ways. You can use it for prosperity, protection, love, healing, or clearing. It's how do you fine tune it? So how do you like use an attraction energy? Like things are coming to you like crazy and it's too much. So how do you use that to clear something? So we just have stuff like that in there too. Wow.
I can't wait to see it. It's amazing. I love it. I love how you actually packaged them too, the names, and it's very well done. And that, that is part of, to me, anything magical, it's putting thought into it, even in the details of everything, the names and everything.
And this is, I'm so excited because this is boxed in a tube. So it's a magical unboxing for yourself, or untubing for yourself. So yeah, I'm excited. So take a peek when you have a second. If I was smart, I would have had them around me, but I was so excited about being here. I got my stuff.
Well, I think from what I can tell, astrology is going to grow even more now. I mean, it's probably because we are in at least the cusp of the age of Aquarius. And of course, Aquarius is associated with astrology, and it's just more and more popular in so many ways, using it for magic and people YouTubing on it, and younger people, really young people, having studied it for 10 years and they're only 25, and that just didn't happen in my time because there wasn't that many books available so easily.
And doesn't it give us a sense of control in the middle of chaos?
It can look that way until you go a little deeper with astrology. It's tricky.
and then it's all chaos.
Then it's still there. But it definitely helps you to look more deeper into life and to try to understand how energies work on the small and large scale. That I think astrology does very well.
Well, how many times do people say, isn't Mercury retrograde?
A lot.
And you're like, no, honey, it's not retrograde, it's you.
On that note, Make sure to check out all of her great products, Jacki's products, at coventrycreations.com. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And thank you so much for coming on the show. We loved having you.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you, Michael. I just love being here. Anytime you want me, just give me a call.
Oh, that sounds great. We will. And join us next time as we continue to explore the esoteric and the obscure together. Have a great week.